Welcome to the GSMC Business News Podcast, the show dedicated to keeping you up to date on all things concerning business, technology, and the stock market. Get a head start on the day as we keep you updated on the latest goings-on Wall Street, money, jobs, and technology. If you're looking for a podcast to keep you informed and ahead of the game in business, the GSMC Business News Podcast has you covered.
It's your girl Moriah, and thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Business News Podcast, powered by the GSMC Podcast Network. Again, I'm Moriah, and today we're going to be talking about eating out. I know with the pandemic, a lot of us got used to the convenience of some deals and things we were catching during the pandemic. I was definitely a fan of pandemic pricing. So I figure today will be a good time to just remind ourselves of some good habits to have while we're on our quest for financial freedom and wealth building. One of I feel like the biggest eaters of the pockets is eating out. Now, granted, this is not to take a shot at the restaurant industry. I would consider myself a little rookie foodie, if you will. I do like to go and try different things and, see different cultures and their foods and what's, the popular thing that everyone's making and things like that. At the same time, we just want to be mindful that we're not wasting our money, that we're not getting a habit of picking takeout food over home-cooked meals. And although home-cooked meals can be pretty a daunting task, especially if you're not a cooker, or if you're a mediocre cooker, or if you're just, a worker, you worked all day, you come home, you don't feel like standing in front of the stove and making anything. But the time that it takes to wait for the food to be prepared and delivered to you is the same time that it would take for you to do it yourself. If anything, it might take quicker for you to do it, depending on what you're making. There's all types of different tricks that I use to, minimize my eating out. Again, I do like to eat out. I like to go to restaurants and eat out. With the pandemic, a lot of places have been closed. So I've been going to some places where you can sit outside or, going to try some different foods and posting up at the park downtown. Just catching some views and trying new foods and giving my little reviews on my Instagram and things like that. So I'm definitely one of the people who eat out. So I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about myself too, right? So today, that's what we're going to be talking about. I'm going to give you some statistics. Got to give you the breakdown, the history, the data behind, the topics that we discuss. Then I'm going to give you some tips and some things that I use in my day-to-day, again, to minimize the eating out, all right? So now that we know what we're discussing, let's hop right on in. All right, so I just wanted to say that a few years ago, I like to go back and look into time and come back to the future, see where we were so we can know where we're going, right? So there was a study done back in 2015, and it showed that the food and drink industry, the sales in the restaurant industry had reached about $746 billion. That's in U.S. alone. So this is not even going global, discussing other places. This is specifically in the U.S. And, it was about 19 million people that had went to full service restaurants. So that's, you go, you sit in, you get your appetizers, your main course, dessert, things of that nature. About 19 million people visited those places. And for the quick service places, about 49 million people had went and did the quick service restaurants back then in that spring of between 2015 and 2016. So from those numbers alone, this is a few years ago, we see that the food and sales industry has always been getting patronized by customers, and people love to go out to eat. There's always some type of occasion I'm big on celebrating different occasions. And, I do like to go out and be amongst the people. I guess that's the PR in me. I love to be around people. I love to get to know new people, have random discussions with, those that I meet while you're out and about. So eating out is definitely an experience. It can be considered, I want to say therapy at times. Food is good for the soul, right? And your belly. So I understand going out to eat, but as we can see, it's a booming industry. And since then, those numbers have went up. So there's been about a 20% increase, in those numbers. So, once a week, about 20% of Americans visit quick service restaurants, as well as for the full service restaurants, that's also in the 20% range. And then Americans who regularly go to, your coffee shops. There is one coffee shop in the city that I absolutely love. If you're out there and you ever come to Philly, try Uncle Bobby's Cafe. Absolutely love the ambiance. The food, the breakfast food I had there was really great. Such a wide book selection. Kids, it's just a whole vibe. So if you're in the city, while we budget our spending, try to fit that into your budget. All right. So moving on. Americans who usually visit quick service restaurants for lunch, that's about 72%. So that's an even further breakdown, of that 20% of Americans who do go out to eat. 72% do it on their lunch to the quick service restaurant. So that's just, going to a quick restaurant, getting what you want, leaving. For example, you might get a cheesesteak platter on your lunch break. If you work in certain parts of the city, you might go get halal from one of the halal trucks. You might go to places like Panera Bread or Chick-fil-A, things of that nature, where you are able to go and dine in, but you're also able to just quickly order at the counter. They make it for you right then and there, and you're on your way. All right, so those who normally go during a very busy work day is about 25%. And those who go to the full service restaurants for lunch is about 44%. I wish my lunch breaks were that long so that I was able to go to a full service restaurant for lunch. And even if I wanted to, the area of the city that I live in, it's a bit of a drive, so wouldn't be able to do that as much. I have, however, had some friends and some colleagues who had former positions at other jobs describe, having team builder lunches during lunch hour, things of that nature. You are able to go out and eat, and depending on the job, you may have one drink, and that also brings up the price of eating out when you go out to eat. It's almost like online when you're shopping, and you buy a t-shirt and put it in your cart. And then you're in your cart, you're putting in your information, and then they do a pop-up, hey, do you want to get these shorts? And then you're like, okay, yeah, let's add the shorts. And then at the very end, they might ask you, do you want to add socks, make it a bundle? You can decline or say yes and keep going. I feel like the restaurants do it the same way. So while you're on lunch, you're trying to move quickly. It's easy, while you're moving quick, it's easy to say, yeah, just add that. I'll eat it, in between this and in between that. And that's how the price tends to go up when you're out to eat. So you want to be mindful of that. I'm not saying don't indulge and don't enjoy yourself, but we don't want to make it a habit, especially if we're in the beginning stages of seeking financial freedom and building wealth. All right, so let's break down even further. Let's get into the consumer spending. So as of 2021, $798 billion go into the drink sales. And consumer spending at the quick service restaurants is $272 billion. So, those quick service places are seeing a lot of return. They normally have the cheaper meals as well. So I can understand why individuals would want to go to the quick service restaurants. I'm big on quick service as well, even though I do like to go and sit in. I do, when I have to go and I need something on the move, something driving friendly, where you can, if you're at a red light, you can, grab a nugget real quick. Those kind of restaurants, it's easy to just go and pick up something and be on your way. So that's a quick way that, the pockets get ate at from eating out, because it's all about convenience. And especially in America, we absolutely love convenience. We will pay extra for convenience. A a lot of individuals will. So that's something that you just want to be mindful of. All right. And I want to say, just to highlight, that Applebee's saw a pretty good return of $299 billion in sales. So that's including food, drinks, appetizers, all that jazz that you can get at Applebee's. So that's just an example of how much one restaurant within the industry can make a killing because of our eating habits. All right. So just I thought those were some pretty interesting statistics. Normally, those people who do eat out, they like fast food. Even though, again, the restaurants are, seeing a lot of, sales going on right now, especially with the pandemic. It was just easy there. It seemed like everything got more convenient in the height of a healthcare crisis. Ordering things got easier, having to be at the restaurant at a specific time if you were able to dine in, the whole experience, the condensed menus. So again, you always want to check out the convenience where I like to think wherever the convenience is where the money is. Again, especially in millennials, that's another statistic that I charge you to look up on your free time, or you can do it right now while you're listening to this episode. Millennials are the biggest spenders on convenience. So at times we don't care how much it costs. Will it get done? Is it affordable? And will it get done quickly? I am one of them. I can tell on myself. I love convenience. I love how quick things move. I'm a time cruncher. I know I'll probably drive everyone around me crazy. I'm a stickler for time. So, if I have it in my mind, all right, I'm going to go to this store, I'm going to go pick up the food, I'm going to be over here, and then I'm going to be back home. I want it to be done within that time frame. I'm learning patience. Don't judge me. I'm definitely learning patience. At the same time, I'm not the only millennial that feels that way. A lot of us feel like there should be some quickness behind it. And because of that, we'll pay the extra. So I can just give a quick example. Before we take a quick commercial break, there was a time where I was ordering out a whole bunch during the pandemic. I had to catch myself. And there I started seeing the fees. I started actually really, really paying attention to the fees and not just worrying about, how quickly the food could come. And one of the fees was for priority delivery. So if you give a good tip and then you do the priority delivery, chances are that you're going to get, your food fairly quickly, probably before a few other orders. So I started taking advantage of that a little bit too much, but hey, it helped the driver. So, it's all good in the end. That's money that can't be recouped. That's another thing you want to be mindful of. While we all do need to eat, we all need sustenance, right? That's how we are. We gotta live. Although that is true, you want to be careful of how much you're eating. As we know, eating habits could be better for us, especially my generation. So that's something else. Fast food is not the healthiest food that you could possibly eat. Although I'd say it's good to indulge every once in a while, give yourself a little treat, but it's not the healthiest meal plan that's out there. So you want to be mindful of that. It's quick to spend a bunch of money on quick food. But again, a lot of people now are entrepreneurs, and there are parents, mothers and fathers, single mothers and fathers, work, 2-income households, and everyone's working, and the kids are here, the kids are there. You might be taking care of a loved one. So ordering out is just an easier route for a lot of us right now, especially with the pandemic. A lot of us had to be home. So although you would think that it gives us more time to really indulge and cook and do some of the things that, that we can do in the home, it's actually, I found it a lot easier to just order out because you're home all day. And then sometimes that relaxation makes you too relaxed and now you don't feel like making anything. So there's a few layers to the reasons why people order takeout. You might also just want to be supportive. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm in business, and a lot of my friends are as well, and we love to support one another. So ordering from each other's establishments isn't too far-fetched, but we also just want to keep in mind of our habits while we're spending, all right? So with all that being said, we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, I'm just going to get into some more information about eating out, some more in-depth look at the habits of the spenders, and then we'll get into, some ways that you can cut back, and towards the end of the episode, we'll get into some things that I do to help me save money and still enjoy eating out at the same time, all right? So stay locked in. We'll be right back.
Are you looking for a podcast that gives you all of the latest news from the world of finance? Then check out the GSMC Financial News Podcast. We'll delve into the ups and downs of the stock market, changes in the economy, and news from the world of real estate and technology. From breaking news on the New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, or the overseas market, to updates on the bond market, if there's money to be made, we'll cover it on the GSMC Financial News Podcast.
Back, and again today we're talking about eating out and how it can, although be fun, it can definitely cut the funding that you have for your fun and other activities down. We don't realize, I think, in the moment how much we actually are spending on food until we look back at our accounts or look back over the year and see what we've spent and realize that we did terrible and that we should be cooking more and things of that nature. The cost of eating out can be, I would say, one of the more expensive habits that you can form. Again, the convenience factor is always there, especially again, as I mentioned earlier, in the millennial generation, we pay for convenience. We don't mind if it costs us more, if it's going to get done, it's going to get done correctly, or it's going to be a great experience, or the food is going to be amazing. In this case, we are willing to pay for convenience. I gave a brief breakdown of me over the pandemic, myself, and how I would like to pay for, the priority delivery so that I'm not waiting, although, normally it takes about an hour to get a quick meal. At least the type of meals that I like to make. I might need an hour tops to get it all done unless I'm baking or I'm on the grill or something like that. And although the other restaurants can do it within that time as well, you do have to wait for them to do it, and then you have to wait for it to get picked up, and then you have to wait for it to get dropped off. So priority delivery sounds pretty good to me. I pay a little bit extra, maybe $5. They'll deliver my food first on their route. That way I'm not getting it cold and things like that. So although it's convenient, if you say you order out 10 times a month and each meal, costs you about, let's say, $50. And so for 50 meals 10 times, that's about $500, which is not far-fetched. I've helped a few people figure out their budget, and we realized they were spending an enormous amount of their check on food, which is not good, right? So much money wasted. All right, so back to the example. You order out about 10 times a month for about $50 a meal because you have to pay for delivery, and you really love this pasta from this restaurant that's kind of far, so they have to drive a little bit far. You want to give a good tip to the driver. They delivered it quick, and it was hot, and everything was fresh, so you run about $50. That's about $500 a month. And, if you're adding the $5 convenience, that's an additional $50. So now you're at $550. I'm not sure about you, but that could cover the car payment and some insurance. And the money I spent on the car payment and insurance, I could put that in the savings, right? And then I could add that up for the whole year. So, if you do that, let's say there's someone who can afford to, and they do this type of takeout ordering every month. You would do the $550 times the 12. You're spending about close to $7,000, $6,600 on takeout per year. I'm sure we all can sit and think what we could do with $6,000 right now. Even if it's just for to plan a few or an extravagant vacation, whether it's to fix some things around the house. You might want to get all the windows redone. You might want to get some car maintenance done that you're normally not able to, especially with the pandemic. People's, pockets have been cut short in a few ways. A lot of layoffs, and a lot of people are looking for employment, but they aren't receiving the same amount that they were before they were laid off. So, trying to cut some corners and trying to make things work. I think the last thing we want to take over is ordering out. That's something that we can control. Although habits are bad to break, especially bad habits. It seems like bad habits are the worst habits to break. The good habits are easy to break. But the bad ones, it's pretty hard to break those kind of habits. So you don't want to get into the mode of spending $6,000 a year, especially if, say, for example, you don't have children, and, you're just kind of living your good life. And you do that for, 5 years after college, and every year you're spending that much money. You're spending close to about $30,000 over a span of 5 years. Now, that might sound crazy to some, but I've seen some people spend more than that in a year on takeout. And that's not even factoring in someone who might have a family. And let's say, for example, you have 2 children. And they're teenagers, so they're eating everything, and you're ordering takeout for you, your spouse, and your 2 kids. You're going well over that $30,000 a year mark. And that's the interesting part is, there's been people, who make good salary jobs, and they don't know where the money is at. So it's not about how much you're making. It's not about, if I make more, then I'll be able to, go out when I please and things like that. It's not about that. If you're not able to manage $6,000, right? For the sake of the example, if you're not able to manage that, you won't be able to manage $60,000 or $600,000, right? It's the little habits that we form now that will manifest themselves in the long term. So you want to get a hold of this type of spending now, while you have the chance before it spirals. Too much of anything is a bad thing. So you just want to be very, very mindful of that. All right, so let's move on to some more information. Again, with that example, that shows you how expensive it can be. Now, again, not everyone spends $50 per takeout. Not everyone orders 10 times a month. But I would suggest, if you do know that you do takeout. Now, some of us, I feel like, have this adulting thing down, right? And you are able to budget, you're able to save, you know what to do. This is not hard for you. But for some of us, this is one of those habits that's kind of hard to break. And if you're one of those people, you definitely want to write out a budget, because again, it's pretty expensive. So granted, let's be real, the food you make at home might not be as tasty as what you order out. I love guacamole when it's made fresh from other restaurants. I have not attempted to make it myself, because I feel like if I make it myself, it's not going to taste the same. It's not going to be as good. Then I'm going to feel like I wasted my money. And then I feel like that leads into the thought, see, I should have just ordered it from my favorite restaurant and it would have been cool. So I need to get over the hump of that. Not being too picky. It's pretty fun. I started following some great chefs who make quick meals, and they give you the full recipe. You might be able to pay like $2 for a virtual course. So while you might not be able to go out to eat, you could still have fun and maybe get a group of friends and you all get together and, do some virtual cooking events and things like that. That way you're able to still have fun. It still gives the effect that you're going out. You've made it yourself. You now realize you can actually put the pot and the water and the food together and it doesn't taste like crap. I think that is one of the things that helps to cut down on that. Just finding different ways to save compared to, some spending that you might do at a restaurant. You want to take that same energy and put it into the grocery store. All right. And then you want to remember that restaurants do about a 300% markup for what you purchase. So that soda that you wonder why you keep needing refills is because the cup is filled with ice and they're putting a little bit of what can fit left in the cup. And now you're paying for multiple drinks. Sometimes we can be honest, when we go out to restaurants, we might have a nice alcoholic beverage and we realize I didn't really taste the alcohol in it, but you know what, let me get another one, right? And now at that point I've been some places where small drink might run you $15 to $20, and now you spent that about 3 times. So that's about $45 right there on drinks. And then you want an appetizer, and then you want your meal. So that's about, depending on where you go. I'm just giving average prices at the sit-in restaurants that I've attended. That might run you $50. So now you have your drinks and your food and your appetizers, and you're close to $100 already in one night. And you plan to hang out with a few friends over the span of a few weekends. And as you can hear, that begins to add up. That money begins to add up, and now you're wondering where that money went. And again, although you might, some of us live by them here for a good time, not a long time, I think we should still plan for the long term. It's nothing like having financial security, especially with the pandemic. We can see that, you never expect for things to go sour. You hope for the best, but as the old mantra always say, you plan for the worst. And having a savings, you might want to start out in your regular bank or credit union and get a savings going. And then I think as you mature in your financial literacy, you will understand that you want to start investing those savings into, other type of accounts that can give you some interest. You might want to get involved in the stock market, get some returns on your stock. Do your due diligence, of course, so that you know what you're buying into. That, understand that if you see the dip like we're seeing right now, sidebar, we're seeing a crazy dip in the stock market, especially with crypto. It's a lot of sell-offs going on. You want to just be able to stay steady and stay planted during this time. It takes a lot of sacrifice. And one of the sacrifices is eating out. You got to take yourself out the game when it comes to eating out all the time. It's a very expensive habit. I think we all tend to do it, especially in our early 20s. We just want to hang out. We can finally drink. We want to go and have a good time. But that money does add up. And you want to be able to look back into your account, look back over your financial history and say, you did a pretty good job of maintaining. We're shooting for excellence, but we want to be realistic. And as we know, breaking the eating out habit is very hard. I've tried it multiple times. I know a bunch of people who have tried it multiple times as well. But, again, when those new restaurants open up, you want to try something new. So you just want to keep that in mind while you're eating out, while you're cooking for yourself, cooking for your family. That little money tends to add up. And at the end of the year, you could have some pretty great savings to do things that you really, really want to do. All right, so we're going to take a quick break on that note. And when we come back, we're going to get more into, some tips that I have on not eating out as much, more statistics on how much we're actually spending, how much better it is, and actually how much cheaper it can be to eat at home with just a few different rearrangements in your diet and your lifestyle. So that we can continue to save and invest and build some wealth around here, all right? So stay locked in. We'll be right back.
Do you work in the world of marketing and advertising? Are you a media buyer or the owner of an agency? Have you been looking for a podcast to help stay on top of all the goings on of those worlds? The GSMC Marketing News Podcast is dedicated to keeping you up to date on all things concerning marketing and advertising. Get the latest marketing news, from what major businesses have planned for the coming year to the newest trends in advertising, from podcasts, digital and streaming, to the old standbys of radio, television, and billboards. The GSMC Marketing News Podcast has you covered, whether you're a marketing agent or a business trying to expand your brand.
Back, and again today we're talking about eating out, kicking that bad habit of eating out. It's specifically for entrepreneurs. So later on in the episode, we're going to get into just a few different type of meal prepping places and some budgeting apps and things like that you can use on your quest to have some better spending when it comes to eating out. But right now, I just wanted to get into my takes on, my personal review and research that I've done in my studies in school, and as well as just some ideas on how you can, curb the habit of wanting to order out as much. I know it's very, very convenient to order out. It's super easy. You don't really have to think too hard about doing it. It just kind of, if it's convenient and the day has been really long, it's just a little bit easier to order out from a restaurant that maybe you shouldn't, or that might be too expensive, but you really have a craving for it, things like that. So you just want to keep that in mind, right? So just imagine yourself, as an entrepreneur. I'll kick it from that angle, because that's what I most relate to. And it's Friday, you work a long week, and you've had a very, very long Friday. And I'm the type, I try to be done as quick as possible on Fridays at my 9 to 5. We have what I'm very grateful for, which is flex scheduling. So I'm able to kind of have a fluid schedule. I'm able to kind of, stay within the parameters of the flex, deal that we got going on. Nice little setup that I have at my employment. So Fridays are normally my light days, but some days Fridays turn into regular days for me. So by the time work is done, I get home, or, I've been out with the dogs, I'm running my errands that I would normally run during the day. And by the time I get home, it's about 7. And now at this point, I am ready to just kick my feet up, put on, I love watching the game or playing the game, really doesn't matter. So we'll say I'm playing the game this evening in particular. And I'm looking around like, you know what? I'm kind of glued to my gaming chair. I don't feel like getting up. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to look around and see who's delivering, right? Who's the quickest, who has a deal going on, things like that. And that's just how easy it has been for me, looking over my budget and looking over my spending and cringing at the numbers of how much I actually ordered, especially over the pandemic. I think 1 month I was really just going crazy with the takeout food. It might have been almost twice a week. I think 1 week in particular I went 3 times, and 2 times in the other week I just was ordering from my favorite restaurant just so I could get out and go downtown and pick it up and come back home. And I looked at my spending, and I was just like, man, I'm tripping. Like, I'm really, really tripping. So I had to get a hold on it. I really had to, pull it in. And, you have to think about the delivery fee, the city tax, the sales tax. Some restaurants charge gratuity. So you're factoring that in. As an entrepreneur, it's just not smart, I would say, especially in the beginning, to develop, bad spending habits. Because how you are in your personal life directly reflects how your business is. Your business is simply a mirror of what you do. When you're the owner, you are controlling this environment that happens to be your business. Well, when you're at home, obviously if it's your home, disclaimer, if it's your home, you are also controlling this environment as well. And you have to be mindful of how much money is going out of this environment, how much you can replenish. And in some cases, some people are spending so much on takeout that they're not realizing that's the reason why they're struggling. $3,000, or for our example that we used earlier, which is on the very high end. The average spending habits of Americans for takeout is about $3,000 annually. So $6,000, that's obviously a jump, but that's realistic as well. Again, you always have outliers and exceptions to many rules. So you figure if you spread that $3,000 out between 12 months, you have a couple $100 extra per month to go towards something else. So you want to be very, very mindful, especially again when you're growing your brand, you're growing your business, you're you're paying for your kids' tuition every month, things like that. You want to be mindful of all the other spending that you're doing. Having a budget sheet is very, very important. A lot of people don't like having budgets because we do understand that, it takes work, it takes discipline, and it takes sacrifice to really stop yourself from ordering certain things, from eating certain things. And then on the other side to it, which is not so much the financial side, which, well, it can become the financial side, I should say, is developing healthier eating habits. As an entrepreneur, as I mentioned on my busy Friday, which is not normal, but for most of the week, that's how my day goes. Outside of the eating out portion, I've been able to cut back fairly well. Every now and then I do have a slip, but that's something that I like to do. That's a luxury of mine that, when I have the time and I can try a new restaurant, that's what I particularly enjoy. So I have to be careful with my enjoyments becoming, habitual things. And with that, that extra money as an entrepreneur, you want to be able to put that into other things, right? So it's okay to go out from time to time. It's okay to spend money from time to time, but you want to make sure that you're able to really support the entrepreneurial goals or the business goals or the business operations. And you want to make sure that your personal spending is very much in line with your business spending. Depending obviously on the line of work that you're doing. Again, your business is a reflection of you as the owner. Entrepreneurship is definitely a sacrifice that you have to be willing to put yourself to the side for and put your wants and your needs to the side for. There was a time where I wanted to go on vacation. I wanted to be like a travel junkie. I love to travel. I love the sand. I love the hot weather. At the same time, you have to be realistic. Am I able to really go on vacation as much as I want and still handle business operations? I do like to bootstrap my businesses. I obviously, if the right type of investor came along or the right type of, funding was available for the business, I would be more prone to take advantage of it. However, for what I am able to, my capacity right now, I have a few different things going on. I don't really think I can handle something of a larger scale at the moment. Although I'm planning for that at this very moment in particular, the capacity that I have just doesn't allow for extra work on my end because I am bootstrapping. So I'm wearing a few different hats. I do have a team that I'm sort of growing, or I would say we're growing together. So that helps as well. And, being each other's accountability partners when it comes to this is very important. I told one of my partners, hey, if I'm with you and, I'm hungry, let's figure out where we can get a good bang for our buck, or let's try, bringing our own meal together. Nothing wrong with cooking with your team. I think that is a wonderful team builder that you should try with your team. Everyone puts in a little bit for your weekly meetings or your bi-weekly meetings, however you all meet. Everyone puts into, type of jar, if you will. It could be a digital jar like Zelle or Cash App where someone, holds the business, quick funds holds that money, and that's what you guys use to have team builders and things like that. A whole lot cheaper to buy maybe a bottle of wine or a bottle of your favorite drink. Make a big meal for the low. There's always deals that are out there. You guys do some cooking courses. Again, like I mentioned earlier, having a little virtual cooking situation going on. Nothing wrong with that. I think it builds the team up. It's fun. You all realize who can and who can't cook in the group, so you know where to have the team cookout at, whose house to go at, right? It's just a conversation piece. I think it really helps. And again, it's helping to save the pockets. We don't want to put too much out there. Obviously, we don't want the restaurant industry to fail. So I think with everything, there is balance, but you just want to be mindful. And especially with the average cost of, household budget for food is about $3,000. So if you're spending that on takeout alone, that's a bit much. That's about $250 per month. And for some of us, that is a grocery bill. So one of the things you might want to consider while you're, getting your budget together and kind of curbing the eating out desire, is to really sit down and make a list. Now, again, some of us have this adulting thing down and we're able to do it very great. But for some of us who don't have it down, we might be in college trying to figure it out. We might be in high school preparing to leave and trying to get our budget together so you can be ahead of the curve, which I always recommend. Make sure you're telling the kids what to do and helping them while they're at school. It's very easy to order food after the caf closes when you go away to college because you're always hungry in college. That's one thing I learned when I was in school. I was hungry all the time. It's all the work you're doing. The brain is going all day. So, you got to feed yourself. So that's why you have to be understanding that it's nothing wrong with ordering out. But one thing my mom always did growing up, that was like a Friday night treat or a Saturday night treat, maybe once or twice a month where we could order out, either pizza or Chinese. I'm not a big foodie when it comes to Asian food. So that definitely helped me with my spending because in my community we have plenty of Asian restaurants. Although I have been getting into different types of sushis. I want to try pho. I'm exploring the foodie area. So I'm trying different cultural foods and, once you find a restaurant that actually kind of allows you to taste the culture's food, but it might not be the way that you had it growing up. I'm not Asian, so my mom can't make it the way that a traditional Asian family could make the food. So being able to go and try it now that I'm an adult, it's pretty fun. So again, you see how it's really easy to get into the swing of spending money on takeout. You want to try different things you didn't get to try when you were younger. You might just have a taste for something. Now that I'm an adult, I don't have anyone asking me, do I have McDonald's money? If I wanted to go get some, I could just hop in my car and go get what I want. And that freedom as an adult is sometimes a little bit overwhelming. We can do whatever we want to do. And when it comes to food, I don't hold back. I love good food. I love to eat. So this for me is a topic that's very not new. I'm used to it, used to having to get back in the swing, putting myself on a strict budget, even to the point where for some of my, quick little money investment accounts that I might have downloaded just to try it out. I like trying different financial applications. I'll set that up where money specifically gets drafted from my account, where maybe my 9-to-5 paycheck comes from, and maybe $15, $20 every pay goes into that account. That's something that I can spend on takeout. And then when I feel that craving, I go to that specific pot of money and I'm able to buy the takeout from there. And once that jar is empty, I'm not allowed to tap into another jar for what I want to do, right? Everything has to be accounted for. And I think getting that discipline first, or getting that discipline early on in the game when you're in entrepreneurship, I think will be wonderful, and you'll appreciate yourself for it later. You might miss out on those good tacos, but you'll definitely appreciate yourself for it later, right? It just can become an expensive habit, and you don't want to get into the habit of things being so expensive, right? You can't eat out all the time, especially if it's not helping your financial goals, or, it's causing you to go over the budget. It's really easy to go over the budget, so you want to be mindful of that. Now, in no way am I telling anyone to stop altogether. I think, in my experience, going cold turkey can be really hard. So sometimes, like I said, kind of cutting back, creating that pot of this is the takeout jar. When I talk to my wife, I always let her know, like, hey, you got to help me. If I'm feeling like I found a new restaurant, I might want to try them more than one time. Like, hey, I need you to step in and kind of help me bring it back. There's nothing wrong with having people or a person around you who you can take constructive criticism from. I think a lot of people can give out criticism and give out help, but you got to be mindful of that. It has to come from someone that you trust. I think it's more malleable that way for you to digest. So make sure you have someone around you who you really know they can get with you. Not like a parent, but like a friend that can really tell you, hey, you're wildin', we're not going back out to eat. We went out twice last month. Let's give it a break for a minute. You need those kind of people around you. They kind of help keep you in check. Right. And then again, on the health side of it all, you don't want to get sluggish. It's a lot of grease that gets put into the foods from outside. My wife, cut back on the salt, and now I'm cutting back on the salt because the food is getting made with less salt, which is much healthier. I realized how much lighter I feel. I got into skating recently, so I'm definitely staying on top of my diet, and I'm realizing how much money is being saved by staying home, kind of having those meals cooked within the home, and then just treating yourself to go out to eat. If it's a special occasion, you worked hard, you made some progress at work, you might want to go for a quick drink and appetizer. Nothing wrong with that, but you just want to be mindful of going out and just blowing the money, right? So my biggest takeaway, I would say for myself, my tip on it is the budget. You can meal prep all day. You can, tell yourself you're not going to do it all day, but until you really put the pen to paper and really come up with a budget and allow yourself that freedom to do what you like to do, if it's travel, if it's trying out new restaurants, if it's like I'm doing skating, if it's skate lessons, whatever you want to do, that budget has to be set in place. I think the budget is almost like, it's like a daily task list. If you go to work and you don't have the daily task list, how do you know what you're going to get done? The same applies to your business or your personal finances. There has to be some type of budget laid out so that you're not going over budget, so that you're hitting your financial goals. Because one thing we're all shooting for, or we should be shooting for, is financial freedom, financial literacy, and, long-term wealth for our family and, for those that we want to impact. All right. So with that being said, we're going to take a quick break. And then when I come back, I'm going to give you just a few different brands that I think are doing some good meal prepping that you might want to take, a stab at, and as well as some budget apps and things like that you might be able to take advantage of to kind of help you curb your habit of eating out. All right. So stay locked in. We'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Hey, and we're back. And again, today we're talking about eating out and how you should have some type of budget in place. That was my tip of the episode, or tip of the day. There definitely needs to be some type of budget in place, so that you know what you can and can't do. Again, we are, for the most part, as business owners, adults. There are some dope kid entrepreneurs out there. Shout out to y'all. For the most part, we're adults, so we can actually kind of move and go as we please. That kind of freedom allows you to spend a little more loosely. I can say when I was in college, I could budget $20 for 2 weeks. Like, I would have that $20 and I would stretch that bad boy out. But now that I'm an adult, $20, it's nothing. I'll get it back. Or I have been doing good with some savings. You don't want to get into the habit of tapping into that savings, because that $20 tends to add up. That $10 here, the $5 there, all of that adds up. Again, Americans on average spend about $3,000 on takeout alone. A lot of us tend to go during lunch, and after a long or busy work day or work week. And weekends, we tend to just go crazy a little bit because of the long hustle and bustle of the week. So that Saturday and that Sunday, those down times turn into money spending times. So you got to kind of take yourself out of that zone and kind of factor in budgeting, factor in your health. Bad health, years later, that'll turn into serious problems. Healthcare is not cheap. It's nothing to take lightly. A lot of people struggle to have good health insurance. So you want to just be mindful of what you're putting into your body. I love a good drink. I am definitely a brandy whiskey type of girl. So nothing wrong with going out, having a good drink, getting some good food, having a good time. There's nothing wrong with this. So I don't want anyone to think that I'm telling you don't eat out. But if you are able, I would say if you're able to cut it out for maybe a year and just all the money that you possibly would spend on takeout food, put it into a savings type of account or put it into a budgeting app. Or if you're, a little old school, you might pull it out in cash. That might be what you spend. You might spend cash for your takeout. You might want to take that cash and put it into a little box or a little jar or a safe and keep that away and add to it every time you think about ordering out. I'm sure you'll be surprised by the end of that 365 days how much money you have actually saved or put to the side, where you realize, wait, there is money. I do have money. I'm just not managing it properly. I think money management is, it's almost like the Achilles heel to every entrepreneur. You have to protect that budgeting. You have to be very, very careful of the budget. Because if the budget gets hit, you will be hurt, right? So you don't want to go over the budget. Just be very, very mindful. I'm harping on it because it's so, so serious. Everyone I have helped trying to get their finances in order have a hard time sticking to the budget, and even a harder time creating a budget. They're just not sure what they even need to budget for. So I always tell you to put out your wants, write down your wants, write out your needs. I'm speaking finances. So what do you want to do and how much does that cost financially to do? And what do you need to do, such as bills and things like that, and how much those things cost? And calculate it up and see how much after you've paid yourself and after you've paid your savings and after you've paid all your bills, what do you have left? And then go to the wants column and see where that all fits in. And then you add that to the budget. Now, obviously, everyone does things slightly different. So the way you might budget is not going to be the same as someone else. Everyone is tailor fit. And that's why a lot of people, like financial advisors, will always tell you to come sit down. Let's write out everything. Let's write it all down. And then from there, we can, work on a tailored fit budget for you. So just to hop into some apps that I think are pretty good. They have pretty good reviews. For usage, is some personal finance or personal budgeting apps. One of the biggest ones is Intuit Mint, and that's one of the oldest budgeting apps out there. It's the same company that makes QuickBooks and TurboTax. They offer a bunch of features to help you track your money from different banks, credit card issuers, brokerages, lenders, other financial institutions. It comes with so many different features. So I would think the most useful or the best one is the budgeting tool. It's right there. As soon as you log into the app, it's right there. And it automatically categorizes transactions from your linked credit cards and your debit cards. It tracks that against your budget and it allows you to tweak it as you go. So obviously, if you're making more, you're spending more. If you're spending less, all of that data, all of those analytics are right there for you. You can get alerts. So if you're out and you're going over budget, it's definitely going to send you an alert and let you know. Let you look at your month by month. So I think that's a pretty good thing to be mindful of. That's definitely something you want to have in place because, again, creating a budget and then sticking to the budget, I think outside of relearning, I would say, to skate is probably the hardest thing I ever had to do. That budget, once you get that budget down, everything is like open water. It flows much, much better when that budget is down. So you might want to give them a try. Another one is called Pocket Guard. And I like the name of that one. I think that's a cool name. You're literally guarding your pocket with this app. It gives you it helps you to not spend too much. So it's an app that links, all your accounts and it helps track your spending. It helps you budget throughout the month. I think this is one of the easier ones to set up and connect with the bank, because it also tracks, your earnings, follows your spending. If you have your bills on reoccurring cycle, that's somewhere I'm trying to grow to. I'm not a real auto pay kind of person. Now, some things you just got to put it on auto pay, just get it out the account. I don't even want to look at it. But for the minor things, I tend to drag my feet when it comes to that. But when it comes to these budgeting apps, having things on auto pay, I think, now again, this is me, so you have to do what works for you. But I just think it's more beneficial because you're able to see the month over month. And then from there, you can see your year over year to see, okay, we'll start now from May of 2021 to possibly May of 2022, and then to May of 2023. And those, in that span of time, that's about from 2021 to 2022, that's 1 year, 2022 to 2023, that'd be 2 years. So you'll be able to see a 2-year span. You'll be able to see how bad you were at budgeting and spending in the first year, and then you'll be able to see the growth or the decline by year 2. So I think having one of these budgeting apps in place is very, very helpful. It keeps you on track of things. And you can also, with Pocket Guard, you can track your deposit into your savings account as well. So that's something pretty good that you want to, keep in mind. It looks for, the TV, the phone, your internet provider, helps you find different deals. So I think that's a pretty good one. And then one of the other ones that I wanted to just touch on really quick, it's called Personal Capital. So it offers like a complete advising solution. It's like an automated robot or robo-advisor, as they call it. And so you mix the robot with the human, you kind of get this this innovative type of experience. I think it's pretty cool how they set it up. You don't have to pay anything to access the money tracking dashboard. It has some pretty cool budgeting features, and it puts the majority of its goals or its emphasis on investing. So it's looking for different ways to help you invest the money, because we can save all we want to. There's nothing wrong with saving, but if you're not actually taking that money and allowing that money to now work for you, so that we can do things like eating out when we want. We can do things like going to different restaurants whenever we feel like it, because we've budgeted for it. It's much easier than trying to pay all your bills and put money to the side because you want to go out to eat on Friday, instead of doing it that week of when you get paid. some people like to wait until the paycheck comes in and then they start budgeting. And I think that's a terrible way to look at it, because, God forbid, the employer is slow depositing that check, something happens with the connection. Automation is only as good as we make it. So if there's ever an issue, or there is fraud that happens, or you forgot about a bill because you're like me and you don't put things on recurring cycles, so you forget that a bill is due and it pulls out of the account or something like that, you're now trying to, run around and figure out, okay, how I'm going to pull money from here and pull money from there. Now you're tapping back into that savings, and that's something that we don't want to get into the habit of, because if you do that in your personal life, trust me, you will do it in business. I think entrepreneurship was one of the most eye-opening things for me, because I was able to see how bad of a budgeter I was in my personal life. I was always good with kind of making sure the bills are paid and making sure there's extra at the end of the month for me to, maybe have some fun. But once I really got the budget down, I was really able to see. So now if I mess up for that month, that's on me, and I know it's on me. I know my budget is foolproof to an extent, but if I go outside of that and I begin to start tapping into the different pots, that's when you find yourself getting into some trouble. So having a budget app, I think, is pretty cool. And then I just wanted to briefly talk about Blue Apron. That's one of the meal prepping delivery services. I think that's another good thing. So if you just know that you're not going to cook, right? We have to do what we want to do. It's your life. You can only give advice, and you can only take as much advice as you'll allow yourself to take. So you have to figure things out for yourself. I like to do certain things, so I'm going to budget so that I'm able to afford to do certain things. And that's just how I approach it. So you have to approach it your way. I'd rather have, a home cooked meal if I'm budgeting. But for some people, that's not an option. They're pretty busy, so they have to take advantage of some different meal prepping services. They might not know how to meal prep. Again, they might not like their own food, so they might just depend on the meal prepping delivery services. I think Blue Apron is a good one. They have a deal. You get about $100 off like your first 5 boxes, I believe, and the delivery is pretty free. You can cancel at any time. So I like the fact that, you're not locked in to a plan. There's another prepared meal site. It's called Freshly, and you can get $80 off your first 4 orders. So they have some, they sit with you basically, and you figure out this type of meal plan that you want to have. Do you need a meal plan that you need a lot of protein? You want to take a look into your health, see what you need and what you don't need and what you need to stay away from, and kind of work with them and go from there. So again, we want to kick the habit of eating out all the time. Is not a good habit to pick up, especially if you are in business, if you're a new entrepreneur. You don't want to get into the habit of eating out so much, because you don't want to, again, start tapping into those savings, or from what I've seen with other business owners that I've kind of, sat and talked with, you don't want to start tapping into the business money to support the personal habits, because you can't cut eating out, right? So you don't want to eat all your money away, and then the bills are due, and now you're tapping into your business money. So just little things like that, I think, will stretch a long way. And the more you practice something, the more it becomes almost like muscle memory. So you want to treat your budget the same, treat your finances the same. Money is a tool. You don't want to destroy your tools. You'll have nothing to help you build with, right? All right. So with all that being said, I just want to say thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Business News Podcast, powered by the GSMC Podcast Network. Again, I'm your girl, Moriah. Thank you for listening, for leaving reviews, for giving me advice, different topics that you guys might want to talk about. Make sure you leave those in the reviews. We're constantly tweeting different topics and business updates, so make sure you're locked in with us on Twitter. That's the GSMC Business Podcast on Twitter, so make sure you follow us on there, all right? I'll talk to you soon. Thanks. Peace.
You've been listening to the GSMC Business News Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type GSMC into your favorite podcast app to find all of the shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From movies to music, from sports to entertainment, from business news to weird news. Please subscribe to the podcast and follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's podcast.